Hi. I have always had a soul connection with children. I've witnessed miracles, I've had my own near-death experience, and I have overcome fears. Now I tell their story through art as a spiritual artist and relay their story as an evidential medium, bringing through children and spirits, helping their loved ones here to heal. Let me start with a miracle. When I was 7 years old, my 15-month-old brother Michael fell off a 2-story building. He was like my baby that I cared for, and he loved animals, so I pointed to a cat below, and within a second, he walked straight through the railing bars and fell. He landed on a single cement block, which was surrounded by grass, and I was the first one to reach him, and it was a terrible sight. It looked as if he had passed. My mother picked him up and raised him to medical care, and I stood in my grandmother's house that night, and I said, "What do we do?" And she said, "We pray," and we prayed. Michael had a fractured skull and concussion and bruises, but he lived, and this was a miracle, and he is perfect today. I've always had such a strong soul connection with children, caring for them, loving them, being in situations where I could help them, and it's a feeling of absolute love. First my brother, then my boys, then working in pediatric ward, and bringing through children in spirit. My guides flashed a lifetime of memories to me a few years ago, which showed me that I have been near children who have passed since I was 6 years old. And these visions helped me to start connecting the dots on my journey. And I believe my experiences were shown to me at a later time for deeper reflection and understanding when I was able to understand what I was experiencing. I remember when I was just 9 years old, I was sitting on the floor holding the hands of a little 8-month-old baby, and I was singing to him and playing with him. And that evening, I overheard my mom share that he had drowned in his swimming pool. And another time, my mom and I went to go and visit her friend's newborn baby, and I love babies, so I got to give him a pat on his chest. But there was a knock on the door around midnight to say that her baby had passed. "Lay your hands" were the first words I heard clairaudiently as I stood at the cot side in the ward. These words came from an angel. I lay my hands onto the sick child as if to show love, and within a few hours that child passed away. I reflected back on my experiences and on my brother's fall during my own healing journey, and this was the reason I carried so much fear around my children. I was so looking forward to having my own children, and I had them soon after I got married in my early 20s. And my first pregnancy was a miscarriage, and I nearly lost both my children during childbirth. And I then wanted to become a nurse, a maternity nurse, to help other young babies. And I would always get placed in pediatric ward with the children. For many, many years, I was terrified that something was going to happen to my children, that they would pass away. And I realized this standing at a racing track. I would shake with fear, and my boys had to go and do the most dangerous extreme sports of motorbike racing. And I realized that I can't live like this in fear, and I leaned into my faith, and I trusted that God would look after my children. and I'm so blessed with my 2 young men today, and I love being a mom. My near-death experience. My children were little when they came to visit me in hospital the night before my procedure, and I was so afraid seeing them leave that I wasn't going to see them again. On the 1st of March 2010, I had a PFO closure as I had a hole in my heart. I was 30 years old. I needed this operation as I previously had pulmonary embolism and mini strokes. And I had to be awake during this procedure, so I was terrified. I was shaking with fear on the operating table, and as the doctor went in the main artery of my leg and fed the device up towards my heart, I was in another space in an instant. I was surrounded by peace and love, and I was sitting at the feet of a big presence, my God, I believe, as I looked up. And I was not thinking, I didn't have fear, I was just surrounded by love, and I found myself feeling the bottom of his robe, the folds of loose material in between my fingers, and I looked down at myself, and it was as if I was a child. I remember his hand coming towards the top of my head, and I found myself back on the operating table with the doctor asking me if I was okay. And I didn't speak about this for months and years because of the fear of judgment. I just felt the physical trauma, and I went back to my life as being a mom. And I also believe that it takes time to fully understand and integrate our experiences that we go through, and we will be divinely guided when to be reminded of them. And I realized later what was a terrifying experience was actually such a gift for my journey, developing and being a medium. Now I can share to others that their past loved ones are in the most beautiful space. And it is a place that we can all have access to, a sanctuary within of stillness and love. And most importantly is it has strengthened my faith, my belief in my God. My art has evolved from me drawing shapes, filling a page, to doing oil paintings for people and myself of my experiences. And art is a beautiful form of your soul's expression. Art holds an energy. Art tells a story. There is deeper meaning to art on a spiritual level. And creating art is a time to come within to listen, to be guided and inspired in creating. And when I paint for others, I sit in stillness and I ask Spirit, what should I paint for this person? And over time, I start to see images and I get ideas and inspiration. And even Spirit themselves, if they are to be in the painting too. It is a special connection as art appears on the canvas, something that is divinely guided. And oil paintings can give to others the gift of their loved one's presence when they look at the painting. And they can feel their love from it, and it can help heal their hearts and create healing. And there are also evidential pieces in the painting which can tell your past loved one in spirit story. There can be nature, beautiful validating memories, even signs that they receive in this life. And it's beautiful knowing that we have our loved one in spirits, love and support. And last year I painted a series of angel paintings. And as I walked into the studio, I looked at my painting that I was still busy with, and there was a feather on the angel painting. And no windows or doors were open, but there was a beautiful feather stuck on the canvas of my angel painting. And these paintings were inspired from an experience that I had when I was in my early 20s. I was at a very low point in my life where I was sitting on the floor with my head down, and as I looked up, I saw the presence of a lady, and she had long brown hair and a simple lilac dress on, and she was gently swaying. She was beautiful, and she just had a smile on her face, and I was captivated by her presence, and I felt such peace and calm in that moment. And after some time, she lifted her hand and she blew sparkles at me, and I crunched my eyes and I went a little bit back. And in that moment, I stood up and I started to hear musical instruments playing. And then I started singing in a high-pitched voice and dancing around the room. And thank goodness no one was home. My whole being was filled with joy and love. And I knew in that moment that she was an angel and that this was a miracle, and she came to give me hope. Angels love to hear us sing. I love music. It is my peace and also a way my spirit team communicate with me through the lyrics. And I remember as a young child being aware of the angels singing with me as I walked home from school, my voice changing to a beautiful angelic voice singing. During my first mediumship platform demonstration, I was so nervous, but the paintings that surrounded me in the sanctuary were so beautiful and meaningful. It was of an angel holding a little child's hand, and I too have this in my healing room. It's amazing the love and support that you can feel from our angels, so you don't stand alone in the physical. So my guides use art to calm and comfort me, letting me know that they were right there supporting me. I am very passionate about mediumship. A few years ago, I was Googling, what did the word mediumship mean? One experience I had, the heightened energy I felt within my being, was all I needed to know that this was my path. This experience was the day my mediumship journey started in 2019, when I went to the spa with my mom, out in nature. My eyes were closed and I was totally relaxed. And an elderly lady appeared in front of me. And I could hear that she was speaking in a different language. And then she drew me a heart symbol. And then a little boy appeared in front of her. And it was as if I was watching a little movie clip. And I knew that this was a message for the lady who was right in front of me, working on me, giving me the treatment. And I didn't say anything straight away because my mom was next to me, and it took me many hours to decide whether I was going to say something or not. And as we were in the car about to go home, I said, no, I've just got to run back in and tell somebody a message. And I gave her the message of love from her grandmother in spirit. And she had tears in her eyes. She was so thankful and grateful as she was having a really difficult time and missing her grandmother. And since that day, I have continued to study and develop as an evidential medium. And I reflected a lot on this day and the circumstances that surrounded it and how things aligned. And one of the lessons Spirit was teaching me is how we have to be still and surrendered in receiving, and that is we just need to just be and listen to Spirit. It is my soul's purpose to be of service to God and the spirit world in this way, bringing through children in spirit, helping their loved ones here to heal. And I've been so blessed on this journey with many miracles, which I'm truly grateful for. Mediumship is a connection of souls brought together in love. and the miracle of healing and love unfolds during a mediumship reading. Our connection with our loved ones in spirit will always be there because their souls live on. To conclude, a few years ago, I was repeatedly shown a past memory of mine, of myself as a child, reading a storybook to a younger child. And Spirit reminded me recently that my mother gave me a photo album when I left home, and Spirit nudged me to page through it. And as I was paging through it, there was this photo that I had no idea was even taken, but it is the photo of the story of my life and my purpose. And as I looked at this photo, Spirit drew me to the words on my t-shirt, "Born to." I smiled. I knew in this moment that my purpose has always been with me from a very young age. And knowing in my heart to help those who are deep in grief through evidential mediumship readings, bringing through children and spirits. And when I'm communicating with their children and spirits, we are in the beautiful space of love, just like the love I experienced during my near-death experience. And now I'm an evidential medium, and I know in my heart and soul that I'm here. I am their voice in relaying their story to help their loved ones here to heal. Thanks.